give it a go. Connecting stream. Let's do the old dial-up.
Caravan. You've been subjected to a highly sophisticated form of propaganda.
It's just what you need, not what you don't.
It's your Apple ID is now being used for iMessage and FaceTime on a new Mac. That's interesting. So either my identity has just been stolen, or my MacBook has decided to like turn on itself. There's a ghoul somewhere in the house. Hey folks, how you doing?
Good morning.
As you can see, I am wearing the cow bandana today. Haven't had it on in a while. And I just thought I'd drive that home. Drive it home.
Brilliant!
The airplane in my ear is really strong today. And I know it doesn't come over half the time. I've also upped the treble a little bit because I noticed my voice was bassy yesterday. I messed around with the microphone to try to make it, fit. Cut to fit the mouth. Used to be on the thing of a certain saltwater taffy on the Atlantic City boardwalk. Used to say, cut to fit the mouth. I forget which brand that was. Freilingers. That was one of them. I don't know what the other one is. I'm back to drinking some caffeine. I'm doing an experiment. I had an oatmeal, blueberries, honey, cinnamon, yogurt, and organic coconut breakfast. And I guess all 0 viewers are interested in how my disastrous day went yesterday. All 50% of you. One of those percentages being me. So, yeah, I've been getting some complaints that, well, not that, that's our title card. We'll get to that in a second. That showing, so much skin of this girl was somehow disrespectful. So, how about I work without a shirt on today? Do you want to do that? Will that make you happy or not? Oh, thrill. Thrill for everybody, right? Cheap thrills. Made some slight adjustments to the set in the background. Some of them you saw yesterday. Some of you are just noticing now. You may notice those 3D glasses behind me there. See my thumb? Gee, you're dumb. Right there. 3D glasses. Calculator. Transistor radio, but the jackery word is showing now, which is charging the on-air light. And of course the Great Solar logo is somewhat visible, at least to me it is. Morning show cereal box. I used to eat oats, but since my teeth went bad. So, let's get into it. Man, this is like riding on an airplane and you're right next to some kind of the air duct or something. It's ridiculous. Or you're riding like that guy on the in Doctor Strangelove, you're riding a missile down or something. Man, it's crazy loud in my ear. I don't know how to get rid of it. It's the output from my board, so it would think that it would be just as loud, you know, for the average sod. I don't know. I forget. I'm going to try something. If I turn this on, can you hear me? The speaker, no. You can hear me, but I can't. So somehow when I have this on, I had this like sinus headache. Well, first of all, it started over here last night. But I took a Tylenol with some cola. I'm drinking the old, you know, not sponsored by it. I want to see if I get an upset stomach from this after having like a sound breakfast. I went to the doctor yesterday. Now, this is a prime example. Now, obviously, this is some old woman's handwriting, but I think she's trying to say, "Not here, please." And you see how it's a visa thing? Now, this is the second time I've received one of these things with somebody else doing that. Now, what about the people who don't do it? Now, when you look inside of this thing, you know, get a higher line of credit, you're pre-qualified. And of course, it's got my name and all my information. You can't trust the mailman now. Mission lane card. Enter your code, which they give you. And congratulations, you're pre-qualified. Good credit not required. Well, I have good credit, apparently, because I have a real credit card. So why would I want to do this? But what's to stop some not, you know, nice or maybe not so nice old lady, somebody just tired of getting the stuff, from not opening this and just filling it out and getting the card to her address? Remember I was saying how we're going to get into the title of this show. In fact, I'm going to call up, let's look at the title card quick. Let's see here. Image. We'll call this one title card, actually, so for the future, because I think I could keep this. Make source visible. Well, yeah, I want to make source visible, but not always. Not exactly sure. Okay, unload image when not showing. Browse. AI. Oh, that's what that makes it visible means. This is the title card. AI myth. My stomach's already getting a little upset, so it is. I think it is the colas. First thing in the morning. AI myth exposed. The morning show. Okay, think about that. Title card. I can move this out of the way. Yeah, good. And so the title, that is the title, AI myth exposed, and we're going to get into that. My CPU usage is way up to like 23.6, and I'm only getting 24.19 frames per second for some reason, which makes no bloody sense. I had the air conditioner on. My computer is a little bit warm. Anyway, yesterday I went to the doctor for blood. I had to get my PSA test, and I got all these other blood tests. I told them about my stomache, my stomach. Here's another one. Came yesterday. If you look closely, let's see how we can do this to get it in proper focus. It's hard to do this. See how it says MasterCard? Plain white envelope. Now this one was apparently mailed to my address. And we always do this, you know. This is just part of the morning thing.
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
A little bit of me and a little bit of you. Remember that Monkey song? And this one's called Aspire. And it's got a card there. Of course, your name and stuff. And let's see what this one says. It's a slow opening. I'm going to have to turn the air conditioner on, I think, because the CPU's way high and my frame rate's way low. And that's got to be it, because my iPhone's on, but I don't think we discovered yesterday it wasn't the iPhone. Right? Or was it? I forget. Anyway, pre-approved credit limit is $700. I'm going to disconnect. I'll be right back. Patience. Patience, me precious. Yeah. There it is. The cat has vanished for some reason. See how fat I look? I'm just like really annoyed by that way. It's something with this shirt. But it's like that it adds pounds to me, but I'm just annoyed with it. I can keep it on for right now, but it's like the vision you saw a couple of moments ago does not hold vision with the thin vision of the way my body is, right? I mean, I'm not trying to flash you or into some kind of weird, voyeurism or something stupid like that. I mean, I prefer looking at that image there. Oh, man. But let's see if this thing does anything. Anyway, back to this credit card. Look at the interest. 36% interest. And if you look down lower, it's hard to focus, but we'll see if we can. The annual fee is $175 for the first year. Then and then 150 billed annually, some 49 billed annually. I mean, now what if this one went to somebody? Pre-approved, they just give you the $700. They don't really care. It's got the acceptance code on here. You know, there's like your acceptance code is like printed on this card. I mean, it's one thing about privacy, but this is identity theft. And didn't they just aren't they in the middle of that? I heard on the news, the Echo Dot news. I didn't realize it'll give you like Bloomberg News. Which I have to tell a friend of mine. Subway has been didn't really benefit too well from this, from the lockdown, or even the past couple of years, going into it. And so as one of their fixes, they're planning to start nationwide delivery. Are you trying to understand? I'm also getting all these health things. Lately. That's just ridiculous. If I haven't done it,
Good morning.
And what we all need right now is...
Really funny. Really funny. What do you mean?
What do you mean you're funny? Okay. So, I go to the doctor. He takes my, muscular arm, takes out about 4 or 5 vials of blood. One of them a PSA test. Now the PSA test was, for the past year, I was getting it quarterly. It was 0.01. Now I'm into the 6 month, once every 6 month, and this one was 0.04. Now it's a fraction. I mean, it's 0.0 if you don't carry it to the second digit, but not too happy about the idea that it went up 3 cents, so to speak. So I have an appointment with the urologist in about less than 2 weeks. Then I talked to the doctor about the old stomach thing, and he said, well, I could get you set up, where they put, it's kind of some kind of anesthesia thing, where they put some tube down your throat all the way into your stomach or whatever. Make sure there's nothing too serious going on there. I'm like, look, I'm going to just take like the antacids for now. And that's why I'm doing the experiment this morning with having had a base of food, because maybe I just wasn't putting enough in. And then I've had this headache yesterday. So I don't know. Am I falling apart? And I had to walk to the grocery store, which has a pharmacy. Of course, I forgot to get Rolaids. But they at least did fulfill my prescription, and my doctor did agree to give me 30 more pills so I could increase my dosage to get a better sleep at night. For those of you who have no idea who I am,
Channel check. Left channel. Left channel.
this is
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
it's Tony Caravan show,
Funky.
and
You're now in a different continuum than the world you're used to.
so I think I might have a mold problem in my attic because of all the leakage up there. And I have been spraying Lysol and this 2-in-1 stuff, which I got another can of delivered to me yesterday via Walmart. They're finally releasing. You can finally order toilet paper, Lysol, and like hand wipes through the post, which you weren't able to do before. It was like in-store purchase only. So assuming this new variant, isn't the weapon to take out, most of the population, which I believe, I think the first one was just a dry run for it. I don't like when they talk about things on the news and it's like kind of universal, and it really shouldn't be a big deal, but it kind of is a big deal. Riders on the storm, into this house we're born, or something. I should get the sheet music for that. I think the air conditioner has helped the CPU. It's going to get cold. I won't be giving you any more flashes of my tanned body that looks like it's not tanned. But,
Okay.
she likes it. over here or over here, over here on the old original Mac, that's a key punch card. I just thought I had nowhere else to put it, so I put it over there. It's 4:52 a.m. in the morning, Eastern Standard Time. I got up at 3. I went to bed at 6:30 last night, but I woke up in the middle of the night because it was freaking hot, man. I am going to talk about this AI. We got plenty of time. We're only 20 minutes into the show. Be patient. Hang in there. You know. It's Wednesday, hump day. Today wasn't a good day in the Revolutionary War. It's also 7/7/21, which, like, for people who are into numerology and stuff, that's got to be a big deal. I'm old enough to remember the year 7777. And there was a party that someone had called the 7 Sevens. And the way that party went was that it started at 7 and ended at 7. It was like 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. They were serving 7 and 7s. Okay, that's 4, right? And it was on 7/7, right? That's 6. You know, 77. I don't know. It sounds like there's more 7s. I don't know. 7 sevens, whatever it was. That was a neat thing. The 7 Sevens party. You know, humans are interesting. There's always some cool, creative people that just come up with this stuff. You know, you gotta love it. So here we go.
The Weather Watch forecast.
All right, so it's looking to me as if it's 72 degrees outside the studio audiences here in the mid-Atlantic states. And today is going to be a high of 88 degrees. There's a 40% chance of a thunderstorm. Well, it means it probably won't happen. And 88 means 90, overnight 70, not too cool. In both ways. And you know, back in my yard, it's going to be 90 or so. I just hope the neighbor isn't burning garbage today. You know, that would be that. Tomorrow it's going to be 79. So, and it gets progressively, it's like into the 70s and then 60s at night. So,
The Weather Watch forecast.
we got that out of the way. Anyway, yeah, so my stomach feels a little bit, you know. So I don't know. There's something going on there. I also had the old, you know, kind of bend over inspection. And that was okay. So, I don't know. And I looked at my blood work, and most of it was, you know, because I get this thing where I could check online my blood work. And the guy must have ran it right down to the lab. For some reason. Maybe he was concerned for once. My doctor was concerned. So most of it looked pretty much right on, you know, lymphocytes and all that kind of stuff. Kidneys seemed to be okay, you know. I had fasted for 19 hours, and that thing, I was like right on target with that. But there was a couple of these things that I had no idea what they were, like these 3-letter things, A this, A that. And some of those I was way out of whack on. So I don't know. I don't know what the deal is with that. But today's show, like I said before, you know, when I brought up, you know, the title card, if it wants to show itself again, suddenly it's just not showing. Why? It's there. That's weird. Huh. She's showing. Let's try the title card again. Oh, it's behind. I see. You actually can put layers here. There we go. I'm learning something new every day. AI myth exposed morning show. This is like a big deal. All right. So, I know. Look, we're going to keep her up for a while. All right. That's just the way it is. You know, skin is skin. But let's get into the AI thing. Okay. Now, when people think AI and you got Elon Musk trying to scare the bejesus out of everybody, this is, the Singularity, right? And of course, this is the Arnold Schwarzenegger, thing. And I could take the name off of that just so it looks like a little more professional, like it's not from the movie poster, but it doesn't matter. You're within your copyright rights to promote movies. So, they actually do have robots now that look like the thing on the left-hand side. And of course, we are the thing, we're the Schwarzeneggers, whether we like it or not. People just don't want to accept that. But here's the thing. This is the biggest myth. This is pure science fiction. And nobody loves science fiction more than I do. Love science fiction. Loved it since I was a kid. Read books, before there was any of this stuff. Read books before they had, when sci-fi movies were B movies that you could only see in the drive-ins, and I was just too young to go to a drive-in. So I read science fiction books, Arthur C. Clarke and Ray Bradbury and all those guys. The classics, right? But anyway, so yes, they're creating these robots that, can do all kinds of amazing things and have more strength than human beings. And most of them have been funded by by DARPA projects. They're for military use. They claim they'll do other things, but it's all about the military. The thing about this is that's fine and dandy, and the military's already has all kinds of gadgetry. I told you they're 50 years ahead of anything you could even dream of. And that's why my set is back here is 50 years behind, right? Just take a look. Calculators, 3D glasses, dial phone, transistor radios, a tube radio, old TV tubes, an acoustic guitar. I don't even have the electric out. Of course, Les Paul had the electric guitar back in the 50s. But, black and white TV in the 50s, too. So what I'm getting at is that let's just jump right into it. I was watching something on YouTube, and if you're a YouTuber, you get it. You watch things on YouTube, too. And it was one of these things where they always have like quotes from Elon Musk, because he's been interviewed so many times, and he always gives this, idea of this dystopian future. And he's basically promoting his own company, really, by scaring people, because he wants to do those implants into people. And then and so the idea of the implant helping people, with motor function problems, I'm all for. And he's not the only guy to ever do that. They've been doing that for a long time. And it's great that he's putting his, a big chunk of money into it to move that forward and advance it. But that's not the thing. Always when he's in these speeches, he's always talking about how AI, that he wants to do this so that we can merge with machines. And what he says is that, in effect, this is, and I'm paraphrasing, but I'm paraphrasing pretty closely to what he says, his like almost stump speech. He says, well, we're already cyborgs because we have these devices. And that with these devices, we have access to all sorts of information. Right? I'm going to try to lower this thing a little bit, if I can. You know, it's like I feel like I'm reaching my head up high or something. And I don't want to. Like I said, I've had like... man, I walked 1.5 miles yesterday. I'd walk a mile for a camel. Oh, my neck. Yeah, don't get old. So, here's the kicker, all right? And then we'll get into this in depth. He's saying, okay, we're already cyborgs because in our hands we carry smartphones and we have access to all of this information, meaning, nothing more than these various voice assistants, right, we have. But it's the same thing, we have access to, Wikipedia, the internet, basically. I mean, that's what he's really talking about. We have access to the information on the internet, right? I mean, because if you look in the back here, we've always been able to pick up the phone, since, since way back. But like even this old-fashioned dial phone, you were able to pick that up in the 50s and the 60s and instantly make a call. Okay? So there's nothing new there. All right? The calculator. You could always, figure out the square root of 245 or whatever. Okay? It was there. We had radio instant, music playing. And believe me, when we had radio, whether it's the old tube radios or whether it's the transistor radios we used to hang out with on the beach or just, sitting on the roof of our cars, smoking cigarettes and drinking a six-pack. The point is, we had information freely available to us, all right? And none of these things are really that cumbersome, okay? I mean, today, to a lot of people, they think, oh, my God, the idea of having to, people would hang out at a hangout, having to use a pay phone, right? Or having to dial somebody on a phone instead of being able to lay in your bed. Well, some people had a phone next to their bed. A calculator. What was so wrong with a calculator? Quite frankly, I still use that calculator over top of the one on my iPhone. Because A, it's bigger and, it's just, it's better, right? Because that's it. A lot of the people, I hate to get into this one. These people, like, they come in, they come out. I watch the stats, excuse me for a second. I say, fuck you, man. Why don't you just fucking learn something in life? What the lesson I'm giving you is, like, probably the most important thing you've ever heard. Why don't you stay tuned for a while? Learn something. Because what I'm about to tell you is something that may affect your future. Well, not may, it will. Anyway, you've been conditioned over the past dozen years. Because remember, the iPhone, none of this stuff existed. All this stuff happened in the past 10, 12 years. And now you're addicted to it. You're getting dopamine hits from the apps on them and all this kind of shit. And the fact of the matter is, Don't give me that. It's all bullshit, right? Everything, we've had these technologies and this idea of all in one, right? But it's a Swiss Army knife, Yeah, it's a Swiss Army knife for people that want to waste their times on stupid things, right? We eliminate DJs, so now that when you turn on the radio, music sucks because the people don't know how to program a playlist. Especially these assistants. Like these voice assistants. The playlists suck. So I find myself having to think hard about what a specific song or album to play, to ask it to play. Because having gone through its playlists, it's like they're not that good. There's a couple of decent tunes it'll pull out. But it's like, some of them you're going like, what are you playing that for? Well, anyway, enough of that. But let's get back to this idea. So guys like Musk, Kurzweil, the Google Go team, all these people who are into this thing, this AI stuff. Facebook, Oculus, augmented reality, virtual reality, artificial reality, artificial intelligence, AGP. There's all kinds of stuff, AI, they have GPT-3 now. And like I say, I've messed around with all that stuff, and, it's in my book if you codex here. I have conversations with an AI, as part of that. Some little interesting discourse there in that book. But the idea is that, okay, we used to have something called Encyclopedia Britannica, which was way more in depth. I mean, it's still out there. It's available on the internet. Probably a pay service now. I don't know. I could double check and let you know. Let's see. New window. Oh, I didn't put up my good morning chat thing. And so anyway, new window. And let's go with Encyclopedia Britannica. I'm going to go to their website and subscribe now. So basically, they've got a portion of it that's available to you, but if you say subscribe now, I'm going to click on this and see what the hell this does. This will start eating up my CPU. Britannica Premium Membership, $52.46 annually. Subscribe. A destination for professionals, college students, and lifelong learners to keep learning thousands of expertly curated articles and scholarly resources. Unlimited access to our educational media library of images, podcasts, and video series. Start exploring. Okay? When I grew up, that's what we had in our house. We had Encyclopedia Britannica. My dad read the entire Encyclopedia Britannica. I mean, these were ridiculous volumes. Each book was about this thick, tall as hell, and the type in them was so tiny. I mean, the volume. I think my brother took them, but they literally would have filled you've seen the bookcase behind me that's off to the side now, but it was just an incredible library. And each year they would send these books, Science in the Future and other kind of things, that if there was new updated information, you would get these things. It was such a vast library. It was literally a home library. Way better than Funk and Wagnalls and all that other stuff. I mean, Encyclopedia Britannica was the gold, standard of information up through till Wikipedia type of things became live on the internet. Problem with Wikipedia is it's bullshit. I used to send money to Wikipedia and support it, but it's they mess with it. They change it all the time. It's politically motivated, and anyway, that's that. And so when Elon Musk talks about people having access to information, and what he wants to do is put in a brain implant so that it speeds up our access to the information, because that's what this is the gist of his and it's not just Musk, it's other people. Basically they're saying that while we're cyborgs, as long as we hold a smartphone, okay, we're not we don't have that information access fast enough. So the smartphone can access Wikipedia, in a split second. But we have to then, we have to search it, read it, look at it, so there's this delay. And so that's why AI is better. And then AI is also better, and it's all technologically based. So you have to think of these individuals, okay? They're engineers, primarily. All right? Musk is an engineer, a great engineer, all right? And has a brilliant mind. All right? And many of these people on these teams, these Google teams, Kurzweil has come up with some incredible inventions that have helped people, tremendously. But their thinking is in terms of technology, engineering, and machines. It's not in terms of the human experience or the human being. In other words, they're so caught up in, it's like the old concept of of the way people used to look. There's these terms. There's the term nerd, and then there's the term geek, right? And you noticed how they've transitioned that. So nerd, bad. Geek, cool. Geek, Silicon Valley, billionaire. Nerd, not so cool, okay? And the idea is these nerds, all right, who now have become Silicon Valley geeks, and some of them, and believe me, very few, half the people, not half, more than half the people working in Silicon Valley getting 6 and 7 figures, they're not Elon Musk's. I'm sorry to say, they're just, they're fakers, right? They're no smarter than the average carpenter, plumber, electrician, welder, people who actually have a trade, craft, know what the hell they're doing. And so they think everything is in terms of AI is going to create the singularity and destroy the human race, or find no use for the human race, because it's going to be smarter than we are and be able to process information faster than we can. So we need either, in Musk's case, we either need to become machine-like so that we can process that data as fast as they can, so that we can keep up with them and prevent this singularity. Right? That's it. You could go and watch these videos, and you'll get the exact same thing from it. He doesn't dance around it. It's pretty straightforward. And they all say the same thing. And I've watched a lot of these guys who are into AI because I was interested in AI and was my inspiration to write that book. And I'm going to further explore it in my new book that'll be coming out later this year. But what they're missing is the human experience. What I call, in my book back here, the hard problem of consciousness. All right? This idea of the mind versus the bioelectric brain. Now, people who watch the show hear me say this all the time. And so the idea there is that life is a soul experience, to put it another way, okay? And it's not soul, and you could take that soul in a sense of a religious experience, or from the religious definition of a soul, or the soul in the sense of just consciousness, this duality of man, the consciousness versus the bioelectric brain, this gelatinous, this jello mold inside your skull, right? That Musk wants to put these little, wires into, all right? And have you connected through Wi-Fi or whatever, okay? All right, big fucking deal. Who gives a shit, all right? See, in the soul experience in life, there's things, and I noticed that, Trey was on there, who takes pictures of these sunrises, and I have to say, sometimes I've said sunset in the past. It's just, a slip of the tongue. But it's like, that's a soul experience. That's a spiritual experience, or it's just a consciousness experience. If you're just a pure scientist and you have, you have no interest in anything metaphysical, so to speak. Though consciousness by its definition is metaphysical, because in the hard problem of consciousness, what the mind, you seeing the world in the first person, and consciousness not being explained by modern science as how consciousness has, is brought into being, is by definition metaphysical. So that's why I use that other terminology, such as soul experience, right? Or whatever. And so what I'm getting at is that if you take a picture of a sunrise, or if you experience a sunrise, all right, firsthand, what the fuck does that have to do with, Trey, I could probably, I don't know if I'm set up right. Let's see if I have this thing here. I could probably get you on the line, I think, if I wanted to. Let me see if I have if I'm rigged for sound. I was the other day. I'm feeling in the dark. Hold on a sec. Nah, I must have disconnected. We'll have to do it another time. For those of you who don't know who I'm talking about, at some point we'll bring on a guest to talk about this. He's got some really good ideas on this. But in the meantime, let me just finish this point. I'm not set up right now to do it. I don't know what I did with the there's like a separate wire that has to feed into my iPhone, and I don't know where it's dangling somewhere on the other side of this mess I've set up to do this. So everything that these AI singularity fearmongers talk about is the idea of, it has to do with engineering and machine-based think. It doesn't have to do with the human experience. What I call, like, say, the soul experience, a consciousness experience, the beauty of nature, All right. Okay, roger that. So the idea is that, think about this. All right, do you think AI is going to fall in love? Right? Do you ever notice, Elon Musk, he's a billionaire and, he jumps from girlfriend to girlfriend. All right? Like most billionaires do, My last wife was, was involved in I divorced her, but I knew getting into it that she had, before she had come out west to try to make it in Hollywood, she was an actress, a Dutch actress, that she was having an affair with some Wall Street guy who was married with kids, right? And, and then basically used me to get a green card, more or less. But then again, she had a fairly hot body. That's not her. And so, I had some fun, so whatever. You get what you give, or you give what you get, I don't know, whatever it is. And so the idea here is that Elon Musk is like that Wall Street guy with the wife and kids, or just the Wall Street guy, or the day trader, or or whatever, who's just having affairs and playing around and goes from girlfriend to girlfriend and this, that, the other. He's not in love, right? AI isn't in love, right? AI doesn't get goosebumps from a sunrise or a sunset, right? AI doesn't understand a forest, the view from, like I've had on here before, and I could put it on right now. Like what? Listen to this.
Hi, this is Kaz on the Choyo OU expedition. We've, in less than a week, left Kathmandu, experienced the craziness of the crossing of the Chinese border. We've gone from low jungle waterfall lands up into the high Tibetan plateau. We're sitting in the desert now and looking at a blue sky day. The team's doing great, and we'll keep you updated. Thanks, bye.
AI doesn't understand that. How descriptive she was, right? This is someone in the Himalayas, climbing Cho-Yu, and on this beautiful day, and this experience she had just getting to that point, and how she capsulized that, in the human brain. And she's able to experience the beauty of this, have the creativity to capsulize it and express it to other human beings. That was a 27-second dispatch that she called in to me from a sat phone, and I forget what year that was, but I think it was like almost 20 years ago. All right? And Musk has no clue of that. Do you understand? No clue of that. And so, and I could go on and on. When I talk about that, this isn't our planet. This is the trees. All right? The flora, it's their planet. And we talk about the fungi, this network of, mushroom, roots that connect over distances unimaginable to the average person. In other words, the distances of states in the United States. And they've discovered this, and they communicate to various trees and plants and do things and react, give warnings, you know, beyond our comprehension. It's part of like the psychedelic experience, you know. Some people like connect this, and you know, there's no direct evidence, but there are people who seriously study this type of thing. You know, McKenna used to talk about some of these things a little bit. But it's the idea, it's psilocybin, you know, is that this is another consciousness, okay? Consciousness that exists on this planet. That it's their planet. There are more of them than there are of us. You know, when you fly around the world, you look down, that's what you see. It's a green planet with, you know, with oceans. And then there's these oceans we know nothing about. We know nothing about most of the ocean life. We know nothing about what's down, deep down in the depths of the ocean. You know, people, you know, you have Save the Whales, and people think dolphins are cute and all that stuff. And every now and then someone talks about their brains, you know, and their intelligence. But it's just something that, you know, is talked about in schools or talked about briefly in some little report when there's an unfortunate event, when probably submarines who have copied the frequency and the HARP that uses that frequency to communicate with submarines in the, you know, over vast distances. You know, they studied whales and they found out that these whales could communicate over vast distances at this certain audio level. Right. And so they decided to copy that, right? And, you know, half the time when you see these beached whales, it's probably there's some, you know, their ears are exploding and they're like heading for the beach to get out. Otherwise, they're gonna, you know, that's the way I look at it. It's either that or a combination of the fact that our magnetic field is completely out of whack right now, and that the, you know, the geographic North Pole is not the magnetic North Pole. The magnetic North Pole's moved to Siberia. The magnetic South Pole is no longer even on the continent of Antarctica. Think of that. And we wonder why we're having, why we have problems with birds and bees and things like that. Serious problems going on right now. The navigation, say this magnetite or whatever it is inside of them that they use for direction. And our magnetic field is weakened and moving, and the sun is doing all kinds of stuff, and nobody wants to talk about that. But back to AI. AI cannot experience love, cannot experience the beauty of nature, what's the natural world. All right? AI cannot make love to that woman, cannot feel the skin of that woman. All right? Well, they could create some kind of sex doll that mimics, right? You know, for some billionaire pervert, right, that can't get a girlfriend, and so they spend $27,000 or $1 million to get this. They're creating these things in like Japan and different places. You know, these like, you know, sex dolls that are like, have like a little bit of AI in them, so they're like chat bots, you know, and they've got this, you know, some sort of, you know, imitation skin that's basically some kind of, I don't know, polymer or some kind of, some man-made, creation, right? Basically $1 million blow-up doll, okay? That's fucking AI. That's what that's these crackpots at Silicon Valley. All right? That's part of their goal. And then the transhumanists, they want to be basically thinking they could be put into some kind of android body and be immortal. Right? First they'll be put in the machine, like in that movie, whatever it was, Transcendence with Johnny Depp, that psycho. And then eventually they would hope that they would be able to be put into a physical android. But they don't understand that we're already, our consciousness already is connected to an android. This is an android body. And it has these senses, right? I always say 5 senses, but we have 6 senses, really. When you think of remote viewing, CIA studies and remote viewing that have been verified, things like ESP, right, which is real, right? The idea of, as Einstein, spooky action at a distance, the idea of twins being aware of something that happened to a fellow twin on the other side of the planet, all right, at the exact same instant, all right? So we really have about 6 senses that we know of, okay? 5 senses we're taught, but a 6th sense that has been studied for, decades and decades and decades, okay? And so now you come back to AI now. So AI, you've got in this supercomputer, now they've got computers that are they're basing computers on DNA. They want to actually use the human body and humans as some sort of network. This is the funniest one I've heard. To use our own DNA so that we can form a network, all right, of AI, all right. So that why worry about building, some sort of ridiculous supercomputer when they could use humans and our DNA, right? Which just brings makes this whole DNA thing they want to do to people even scarier, messing with your DNA. Maybe it's a first phase test, just like this other thing was a dry run on whatever they got planned for this fall. That's what that's what I'd be afraid of more than the Singularity or the AI. So AI sees itself, AI is a machine, is equipment, is engineer think. It's not human think. You get conditioned and you get drawn into these guys talking, right? And girls talking, or some TED talk, some discussion, some interview somewhere. And and it's like they're into it, and like I say, you're drawn into it, and they make a case. It's like a lawyer, and they make this case, and it sounds plausible, it's believable, and and it's accepted by people. But I'm here, I'm basically giving the counter to that and saying no, it's bullshit. See, AI machines, first of all, machines require power, all right? So where are they going to get their power from? When you look at these sci-fi movies, I don't mind accidentally hitting that. But really, sci-fi movies is that, they basically tapped into solar power, or if you got into the the movie The Matrix, they were using humans as batteries, right? Which is an absurd, ridiculous, concept. All right. Ridiculous concept. None of this stuff is going to happen. All right? None of it. They're trying. The military's created some incredible devices. You should see, I think it's Boston Dynamics. You should see Boston Dynamic robots. I mean, they're scary as shit. And they're way more powerful than, they could take on several men, right? You could shoot at them, you could do all kinds of things, and they just keep coming at you. So as far as a robot army's concerned, for the military contractors, they got that covered. That's great. But that has nothing to do with anything. And it has nothing to do with AI. It has to do with creating a robot army. Now, there's a difference between robotics and AI. And the two are not going to merge. Because we already are androids. And maybe we were created. Like, see, this is the thing. People don't want to get through their thick skulls. Maybe we were created 72,000 years ago. Right? 1 million years ago. Information's lost over these cyclical 12,000-year cataclysms that we're on the verge of within the next 10 to 20 years. And everything is lost. The cataclysm is just destroys everything. Nothing remains except stone. People have no concept of the idea, the pressure of like 2 miles of ice, what it would do to a thing. All right? When I was a kid, we used to take like a penny. And this is a Kennedy $50. I put this up a little while ago. You don't see these things anymore, hardly. I got one. For some reason the other day, someone gave me one. It's for change. But there used to be a rail line when I was still a kid. The rail line ran from where my hometown. And you used to, if you were, it was dangerous to do. But if a train was coming, you'd put a penny on the track, and then you'd step back. The train would come, and it would flatten out that penny, to this large flat piece of copper and whatever else is in that, whatever else they put in there now, or did then. Well, that was just a train, all right? And it basically flattened out, something, so thin, a penny so thin, a piece of metal so thin that you couldn't imagine. Well, imagine what 2 miles of ice, the sheer weight of that, would do to a car, a computer, people, right? Buildings. We're talking, beyond pulverization, all right? Nothing remains. And then let's add on top of that 10,000 years, all right? And everything, even plastics, doesn't matter what it is, it just disintegrates, right? And so that's how that's basically how it is, So the planet, people talk, save the planet. Don't worry about saving the planet. The planet's been here 4.5 billion years, something like that. At least that's the going thought, And it survives, and the natural life forms on this planet, the trees, the plants, right, flowers, the ocean, right, things that live in the ocean and at the depths of the ocean, places that have remained unexplored, right. Well, the planet's fine, and the planet recovers from these things. There are, certain trees, the natural order, they talk about forest fires. Well, one of the natural ways that the forest manages itself is through forest fires. In fact, in some instances, in certain trees, it's the fire that makes the seed able to germinate. And you can read up on all this kind of thing. And it also cleans out all that brush and stuff in between. That's why people always say, if you want to live in a forested area, or people want to develop these forested areas, and there's always every year there's another forest fire. There's one going on right now, I think. And everyone's always in this panic. Well, look, these things, unless it's some kind of man-made, fire, somebody leaves a campfire or throws a cigarette out a window or something stupid like that. This is the natural order of things. Lightning striking, right? Santa Ana winds out west. This is the natural order of the planet, and how forests basically renew themselves and self-manage themselves. But if you want to be involved and live in that kind of heavy forested area, well, then you need to manage the forest so the forest doesn't have to come in and manage itself. Meaning you have to clear the brush. All right? You have to make it so that you're not going to have an out-of-control forest fire. And we don't do that as a nation. We don't have good forest management, particularly out west. Very bad forest management. But the idea is that's just a little, side thing. If there's a earth catastrophe, the forest will renew itself. That's the natural life form. And the underground networks of fungi, these basically this neural network that exists between this natural life form, right? The true indigenous life on this planet Earth will survive and renew itself. And those humans that survive, and other mammals and reptiles and fish and whatever else, insects, they'll gradually come back and form another, over thousands and thousands of years, will rise again and form some sort of civilization until the next cyclical cataclysm. The sun has a micronova, a CME, that takes out, a vast majority of human life. And, the planet, we're in an interglacial period, and we get back into a glacial period, an ice age, and you've got miles of ice over top of, what was once New York City. And, the sheer weight of that and the grinding destroys all remnants of that city. And then oceans rise when it melts. And so most cities today, and most cities in the past, are the population centers are all mostly around the coastal areas. And so the last time, between 10,600 and 12,000 years ago, ocean levels rose 400 feet and basically buried some of these great previous cities of 12,000 plus years ago. And they're starting to discover those cities they thought were mythical off of the coast of India and other places. And it's like, yeah, it's down there. But imagine what being underwater, salt water, after being pulverized, after this massive upheaval, right? And these ridiculous tsunamis, earthquakes, fire, baking, this is the kinds of activities, earthquakes and volcanic activities that occur during these cataclysms, these cyclical 12,000-year cataclysms. After all that, the water rises 400 feet, and it's buried there for 10,000 years, 10 or 12,000 years in this salt water, And so what do people find? Anything that was like worn away, washed away stones, which again is like that one of the natural. It's part of the natural world, right? This world is composed of rock, mineral, water, right? These basic elements, of the planet. And what does this have to do with AI? Absolutely nothing. That's the point. AI is a myth. AI is a myth being propagated by engineers and machine people and transhumanists that won't accept the fact that they already are an android, the highest achievement of civilization thus far, at least that we know. And that perhaps somewhere along the line our DNA's been fucked with. And so our lifespans have been shortened and our brains have been incapable of basically reaching their full potential. Talk about this many times. When you look at a savant, for example, somebody who has total recall, beyond belief, even people who just have photographic memories, really good photographic memories. And then people like Da Vinci's, and some people say Einstein, though I think Einstein was overrated, which is hard, for some people to accept. But, if there can be one savant, if there can be one Leonardo da Vinci, all right? If there can be, so be it, one Albert Einstein, all right? One person with photographic memory, all right? Total recall. There can be others. And that means genetically, all right, it's possible. If one person can live to be, like the average human right now, if you look at the studies that have gone on, people who study, the human body, all right, biologists at a high level who look at longevity. The average human, is capable of really living to be about 120 some years, all right? Maybe years ago, it was beyond that. It was 600, 800, could be 1,000 years. But right now, you could live conceivably to be 120 some years, and there have been people that have lived that and longer. I've done a show on that. In one of my books, I actually list individuals, that have been documented. But they say the average, the mortality rate these days is like 77. It like dropped a year or something in the past couple of years or so. But it's really in the 60s, if you think about it. And so we're living like our lifespans are half what they should be. and could be. You know, and don't let your mind start drifting into like the way you've been conditioned in the school system. They say, well, you know, back in like the Roman days or other days, people only lived to be 35 years old or something like that. That's total bull. You had people living to ripe old ages back then. The average person, because of wars and diseases and certain things, when you averaged it out, all right, so many people died in these senseless wars and these diseases that the people in the Middle Ages had no idea how to cure, all right? So that when you averaged it out, even though there were people living to be in their 90s, so many people were dying of war, in childbirth, and of diseases that the average age was lower. It wasn't as if people only lived. This is the way it's presented to school children. You know, and there's adults that still believe this. That those people only, the average age, they only lived to be 40. No, you could have lived to be 100 years old in the year, 600. All right? Just like right now, you should be able to live to be 120. So the question is, with all of modern science, right? Modern medicine, technology, whatever you want to call it, why are people only living half their age, their potential age? You know, we have wars, but right now, you know, even with the horrific waste of these Middle Eastern wars that have dragged on for nearly 20 years, and we're just starting to finally get out of Afghanistan. You know, the numbers of people killed weren't enough on a planet that has nearly 8 billion people to take an average age down to 60-something. And believe me, you start falling apart when you're in your 60s. It's just the way it is. So that has to do with food, water, and the medicine that they're dishing out to people, the drugs. So, you know, look at it this way. If this android body of mine, okay, were properly fed and, was able to experience life, unencumbered by stress and these artificial environments and technologies, electromagnetic radiation, its 4 status. I show this thing all the time. A scientific, this is a scientific device. It's not a toy. I turn it on. I'm going to point it at the computer. All right? And what it's reading is harmful radiation coming off of this computer. When I point it over here, well, let me just put this out. When I point it over there, you know what's over there? A futon, a wall. When I point it back at the computer, do you see what I'm saying? That's why we're dying. That's why we're dying young. I see these people pull their cell phones out of their pocket, guys. And, all the studies have shown that the sperm counts are way down. How many people... I had prostate cancer, all right? Had a radical prostatectomy about a year and a half ago. And turned out I talked to friends, about it. I mean, casual friends. I don't have any really, friends. I don't live in a neighborhood where I have I'm not in my hometown where I know everybody. You know what I mean? But I have friends, casual friends. So you talk to casual friends, you're close enough to have a conversation and maybe sometimes some personal conversation. And and I was surprised. I couldn't believe it. They said, "Oh yeah, I had that operation 3 years ago." I talked to another friend of mine, and they say, "Oh yeah, my father had that." And of course I've had a family member who's had that. And suddenly I'm looking around and I'm going, geez, everybody's got prostate cancer or some kind of cancer. I had this Johns Hopkins doctor who performed the operation, thank God, did a good job on it, because the complications of a radical prostatectomy, man, you could be wearing diapers the rest of your life if you don't have the right guy do the job. This guy did the right job. I'm doing okay as far as that's concerned, knock on wood. All right? But that guy's busy nonstop. That's all he does all day long. And this is not a major market. And he is a partner, and that guy's busy doing it too. People are, they have these cell phones or even the earbuds and stuff, and they're talking. There's been studies in England that it's causing brain cancer and tumors and stuff. People don't get this. We're being exposed. I have the air conditioner on. I had ice cubes in this thing. Okay? All right? You see the sweat on this thing? I don't know if you could see it. If you look closely on the bottom, there you see the bubbles under my name. This was filled to the rim with ice cubes. And it is so cold in here that I feel like putting on a coat. But I'm doing it to keep the CPU on this piece of shit computer down. All right? Excuse me for belching, but I'm a human being, and that's an Android fault in this Android body. The electromagnetic radiation coming off this computer melted that ice, because this room is like the inside of a fucking refrigerator, man. Right? There should be no ice melting. I'm telling you. It's crazy. It's frickin' crazy. But anyway, so our focus, that said, this is just beautiful. I just kept clicking that by accident, but yeah, let's just look at that for a little bit, man. I mean, some people like women with bigger breasts, but what was that old line, more than a handful or whatever. Anyway, I don't care. It's it is what it is,
You're listening to Tony Caravan Live.
Yeah. He said it.
Okay.
But what I was trying to bring back up is that this fantasy, this myth, this is pure science fiction. The machines aren't going to take over the frickin' world. Computers are incapable of love. They're incapable of appreciation of the beauty of nature. They are incapable of understanding this planet. All right? They have no place on this planet. They are tools. This thing is a tool. That's all it is. It's a frickin' tool. When I turn this thing on, let me just do something here. I don't know if this, because I'm theorizing that, let's see if my CPU goes up. But when I turn this thing on, which is not happening. There we go. I don't know why I had a delay. But when I do this, I'm going to take it out of its sheath, as they say. And see, I just wanted to show you. See, no ice. That was filled with ice cubes. All right. Gonzoed. All right. Oh. That was a potato I got from my garden the other day. Might as well do a little show and tell while I'm at it. CPU's up to like 8.7. Flowers growing in my garden. I installed a little air conditioner in my hallway. I don't wear shoes upstairs, so I take them out. That's like entering my upstairs hallway. Well, that's enough of that. But anyway, let's look at the news for a second if the CPU doesn't jump past 10%. Okay, so what they're saying here, one of the major stories is a tropical storm on Florida's west coast. Well, let me tell you something. And you know, they're sensationalizing this. And believe me, any storms down there are, you know, they could be tragic for people because people lose their houses. Some people could lose their lives or whatever. But I lived on the Florida Gulf Coast for about 2 years. And I lived through tropical storms. This isn't a hurricane, okay? And this is what happens in Florida, okay? Now here's another one, this HuffPost, this Delta variant. What's up with this? Is this the one? Is this the one that they're planning to take us out with? More politics is pop culture. You know, I don't even been following the Britney Spears thing. I don't even know what that's about because I don't watch network. I don't watch news, and I don't even read this. I just do this for you. Somebody, a dog adopts a kitten. That's a funny one there. So you see how crazy, you know, things. U.S. athletes, everyone will be talking about. Don't look like people I would imagine, you know, we would be talking about. Bizarre right wing. Right. This is pretty funny. Do you see how, you see politics here? I give up, man. I give up. Politics is pop culture. No wonder people are afraid of this. We're being diverted by the most ridiculous stories and things that have to do with nothing. He said, triggered thing. Freaks who are freaks, the Olympics becoming a circus show. And AI is going to destroy the world if we don't get implants in our brains by Elon Musk's company, or let Google do their thing. These are billionaires, rich billionaires who have no clue about life whatsoever. They're not human. They're machines themselves. I see I basically scared off just about everybody, I guess, when I showed that news or commented on the Olympics. Hey, I'm sorry, man. You know, from my cultural background, that's my image of beauty. You know, I've got a right for that, you know. I mean, heck, I'm dealing with this still, right? And remember, the tooth, you know? So I guess to get through this thing and to finish this off, I mean, have I been getting through to you? You know, that's the question. Do you see my thought process? The idea that what is so important about AI, other than that you can create conversational chatbots? You know, it's all machine based. It's all things that can be done that are unnecessary things. They're like modern conveniences. That's what AI is. AI is modern convenience. They're improving chatbots. And why do we need instantaneous access to certain things? Faster than the capabilities we have now or the capabilities we had 15 or 20 years ago. Maybe even 30 years ago. Or like my black and white, this is a black and white TV broadcast, right? Why do we need, you know, in other words, why are we reinventing the wheel? Make improvements on it. Why aren't we focusing on our biological brain and our human bodies, the health of this thing? So that we can live to be 124 years, right, which we seem to be capable of from the standpoint of our organs and the way we are. And then there's all this research into telomeres and other things, you know, how a cell dies and renews itself and this, that, the other. But see, they don't want that. Because the ruling elite, they just want power and greed, and they want immortality for themselves in their delusional minds. This is like an organized crime syndicate, the corporatocracies that have taken over government that I talk about all the time. These are like very delusional, narcissistic sociopaths, and many at the top are narcissistic psychopaths. Literally, psychopaths. And these are the people in charge. And like I showed yesterday when I was just scanning the posers, the YouTube millionaires, and I was showing how people are like Google-eyed over these people who are, you know, showing, hey, look, we just bought a new thing. But our whole channel started because we were just a poor little couple trying to build our own homestead. Right? And now you're buying, you know, $60,000 and $80,000 SUVs and, you know, $100,000, you know, construction equipment, and your house that was supposed to be a homestead has turned out to be some kind of chateau with every modern appliance known to man in it. Because it's a chateau. And people still watch these people. And now they become, you know, they're making hundreds of thousands, if not $1 million a year. And people look at them and like, Lifestyles of the Rich and Famous. It used to be a popular show, I guess, back in the 80s. People like looking at this weirdness. And it's no wonder there's so much crime and so much anger and unhappiness and people turning to drugs. Because they think, oh, I'm deprived of living that lifestyle. Let me tell you, I live at the poverty level, below the poverty level. And you know what? Life is fine. I've got my share of health problems and stuff because you just can't do anything about that. You know, that's human nature. You know, it's not like partly because of, I don't know, the water we drink, the foods, you know, they feed us. I mean, that's why I grow my own garden. I try to eat as healthy as I can, but you know, I'm still going to buy some ranch dressing for my salad that I grow myself, right? I'm still going to have to get, you know, something else, you know, to add to my, you know, if I'm going to make some zucchini, I'm going to have to, you know, put some olive oil in there and, you know, ingredients when I'm cooking something. So it's like you know, it's very much impossible to like be totally, you know, removed 100%. You know, and then the air we breathe, we don't know. I still question, how did this thing last year get to 190 some countries while most of the world was in lockdown and air travel was basically put to a halt. And in some of these places, they didn't even have airports or transportation, but somehow they got it. Right? They do. Send the stuff down? Did they, you know, send it down from the sky? You know, through, you know. I mean, you know, it sounds far out and sounds freaky, but, you know, I think it's a question that needs to be asked. And I don't know what they're talking about, this variant thing, man. Like, are they just giving us a heads up? Or are they giving themselves a heads up? You know, sometimes they do these things so they can disseminate this to themselves, you know, so they all can be like, you know, a heads up, take care, make sure they're covered. There's a couple of thousand people, several thousand people, that are trying to rule over millions and millions, hundreds of millions, if not billions of people on this planet. That's their thing. That's the problem that's, you know, that they deal with at Davos. How do we control why I'm wearing this, you know, goofy hat? You know, you're looking at. How do we control the cattle? That's what they're saying. See those? That's us. We're cows, cattle, on their farms. That's all we are. Ever notice how the ruling elite always seem to be living to be in their 90s and 100? So-and-so died today, was 99. Such and such died, was 100 years old. Right? And then your uncle or whatever died, you know, of a heart attack at 50. Like I said yesterday, they send people to school basically from maternity leave through age 18. Like what do they, there's no reason for people to be like in some indoctrination center for that long. You know, basically 17 years of their life. 17, almost 18 years of their lives. And they come out and they're functionally illiterate. They don't know anything. They memorize stuff to pass some state and federal tests so that the school boards could get their funding and the teachers union, and they could all get a salary raise or holidays, and right. But meanwhile, the kids don't have they graduate high school and they have poor writing skills, no math skills, very little science skills, right? In general, it's a generalization, but the majority are functionally illiterate after almost 18 years of going through this system. Their whole childhood, their whole youth wasted, right? I mean, if you're going to be functionally illiterate, why not just have a good solid 6 years of education? Well, what will we do with the kids? You know, both parents, we got to keep them working because they have to be productive members of society until they reach the age of, you know, their late 60s or 70s now, and then it's time for them to die. And whatever they accrued, the financial system or the medical system takes away. Right? You're cattle. You're treated like cattle. And every year your life expectancy is being reduced. And forget about life expectancy. What about quality of life? There's no focus on that. And all these ruling elite, these billionaires, these tech billionaires, what do they talk about? Transhumanism? AI? Merge man with machine? Come on, we are machines. Let's get this machine in order. All right? You know, let's deal with this. You maniacs. So I don't know. It's getting ice cold in here. But I'll tell you, that's what it is, you know, the darn CPU you know, has been the problem all along. So I don't know. I need to come up with some other alternative on these hotter days, because, you know, I can't be like it's like I'm sitting in a refrigerator in order that my computer doesn't like overload. But anyway, beauty, myth, all right? Pain, myth, beauty, an unnecessary device. AI is a myth. Everything you see on TV is a diversion from reality. When I showed you that little news, scrolled that little news on the app, things that happen all the time. There's always a tropical storm. Remember that 1940s movie with Humphrey Bogart? Key Largo. Lauren Bacall was in that. Yeah. That was Florida. Took place in Florida. Yeah, it was like a hurricane came through. I lived on the Gulf Coast. I know what it's like. I got out of there because it was too humid, or there were these tropical storms. I have video of it. I have to put it up one of these days, because I took video right out my window with palm trees all bent down like this. Then the eye of the storm comes over, and then it's like this, and then the palm trees all bend the other way. And the whole thing, doesn't last long at all when you go through those things. And then I walked out, and there was like, you know, palm leaves all over, people who had awnings or shop signs were laying on the streets and stuff like that. I just went to the convenience store and bought something. I don't know, probably a 6-pack of beer and a pack of cigarettes in those days. Came home and listened to some music, smoked some cigarettes, and drank a few beers. And it's like a whole sensation now, tropical storm. You know what I mean? Like I said, it's a tragedy for somebody. It's the same when there's one of these like shooting things or something. I forget, there was like 100 shootings or something in Chicago last weekend. Like 18 people killed or something. There's something like 19,000 plus homicides a year in the United States. And they'll pick on one or a handful of demographic profiles that they'll show, and they'll make a big stink about it, and they carry it on as a story for a year. This is what we waste our information technology on. And then people are telling you AI. What's AI gonna do, right? What's AI gonna do? You know, what would be AI's motivation? Think about that, right? And why would AI want to get rid of human beings? Would find they were unnecessary for what? For the trees? We are crucial to the trees. We exhale CO2 that the trees breathe. And when we die, we become, or go to the bathroom, we provide, fertilizer for them. That's one way of looking at life on this, mammalian life on this planet, is we exist to basically provide, CO2 for the trees and fertilizer for them. Think about that for a second. Yeah, what's AI? What's AI going to take over? What? Watching sunrises? The AI is going to fall, these machines are going to fall in love with each other, understand love. AI is going to want to, has any concept of what it would be like to be, have your body intertwined with that? Is that what AI is going to do? And say, oh, right? I mean, what's AI going to do? And what's Elon Musk, connecting? So we're going to, our goal in life is so I can sit here and say, and just call up some Wikipedia knowledge, or that stupid ass news that I just showed you instantaneously. Well, let me tell you, there are savants. There are people with photographic memories. There are people who already exist that can do that. Why isn't Elon Musk putting hundreds of millions of dollars into studying the savant brain and coming up with they want to give us like a little injection. Why not give us the injection, since they're messing with, RNA and, and DNA type of things. Why don't they give us an injection like that turns us into savants? And then as savants, we can figure out, right, individually or collectively, we can solve this problem with this, the real outbreak. See, the real problem, there's, the real epidemic in the U.S., for example, is cancer and heart disease. The number one killer, go to the CDC site, right? The number one killer in the United States every year, not just like what happened over the, these occasional things that come along. I mean, they're extending this one out just because they're getting, this is a power thing, all right? But the number one killer, according to the CDC, every year, it's about 650,000 people die of heart disease. And another 600,000 people die every year of cancer. Think about that. Why aren't we focused on that? Why isn't that at the top of these screens, these, mainstream media things? Another person died of a heart disease. Another person died of cancer. We need to do something about that. We need to get a, Herculean effort to cure cancer. In the 60s, I used to talk about these things. We're going to cure cancer in our lifetime. We're going to cure MS in our lifetime. We're going to cure diabetes in our lifetime. Give a dime campaign, right? The March of Dimes. We're going to cure in our lifetime, right? Meanwhile, when they had lockdowns, the only thing they left open were fast food joints and places like that were basically artery clogging, heart disease foods that they were shoveling out and delivering to people's doors. And you don't think that, that we're just cattle to them? And you don't see that the whole damn AI thing is a frickin' science fiction myth. It's a myth. This is what life's about. People, the human experience, conscious experience, consciousness, the soul experience, whatever you want to call it, a spiritual experience, the beauty of life, the senses we have. AI doesn't have that. AI, self-driving cars are going to sense this, sense that. No, they're not. Try sending a self-driving car down half the alleys in America. Alleyways, side streets, right? I don't care how many cameras and sensors you put on it. You're not going to do it. Those things won't be able to navigate that. It's another myth. Waste of time. It's just the corporatocracy finding ways so that the automotive industry can sell more cars. In a time when there's more people like me, I got rid of my car. I don't need a car. I could walk to the grocery store, and by the way, that doctor I went to yesterday and got my blood work and all that stuff is next door. I walk next door. I have an appointment in 2 weeks at a urologist for check on go over my PSA number, and I'm going to get picked up by a med van, dropped off, and driven home. Self-driving cars, AI, right? And it'll improve. There'll be plenty, and we'll prevent starvation and things like that. No one in the United States is starving or need starve unless they are, have a mental problem, which is what the focus should be on. Because if you are under the poverty line, you get free food. You get free food. If you are under the poverty line, you get free medical care. And if you're under the poverty line, you can get either Section 8 housing or some sort of housing assistance. Unless you're crazy and you want to live in a tent or something like that. Or you're some kind of panhandler, lives in a tent because you're a panhandler and you make yourself a couple $100s a day. There's panhandlers, making more money than waitresses, bartenders, who are losing their jobs, and those jobs aren't coming back. I told you that thing I heard on Bloomberg today where Subway is going to start delivering. Everybody's delivering. I get my groceries delivered right to the door. I don't even see the person. They just leave them in these bags right at my front door. I get them the same day, sometime within an hour, if I want to, if I so choose to. Otherwise, yesterday I walked down the street, get some exercise. I grow most of my stuff in my garden. AI. AI is a myth. Thanks for watching. I appreciate it.
Good morning.
Go to TonyCaravanLive.com and grab some shirts, and great solar stuff, things that'll help you out. Support the show. I'm demonetized. I do not get any money from this at all. And by the way, nobody's ever bought any of my stuff. Be the first one.